Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be interviewing Jamie Dornan, the great actor Jamie Dornan, and that's true, who also happens, luckily, to be a friend of mine, luckily for me. Anyway, Jamie, I'm really glad to talk to you about this beautiful film, Belfast, that you made with Ken Branagh. Um, we watched it the other night. I watched it the other night and was very moved by it, and very moved certainly by your performance. All the performances are really beautiful. So let me ask you the question that you always get asked first in things like this, which is, how did this come about for you?
Um, Firstly, thanks, Stan, for doing this. This is very kind of you
Jamie, please, please.
to use up some of your time on me. I appreciate it. I will do the same for you whenever you ask. Never ask.
Thank
Um,
you.
you have much more impressive friends than me to ask.
I don't know about that.
Um, yeah, it came about at a very strange time for all of us because it was the beginning. It was sort of in the midst of our first lockdown during COVID, where everyone in so many industries, but speaking for our industry and entertainment and movies and TV and theater, nobody knew what was happening. It was very unsettling. Theaters were all closed, cinemas were closed, no productions were happening. I'd pulled out of a job 3 days before we started shooting, so I was feeling very unsettled about what was going to happen next, like everyone was. And then out of nowhere, got a text message. I always think the best news or the most exciting things in my career come via text from my agent than rather than like there's always like a preemptive like prompt text saying from Teresa Peters, my agent who I adore, saying like we need to talk. I'll call you if I'm out. Ooh, something is stirring and it's good. Um,
Right.
I got a text from Teresa saying Kenneth Branagh is making a movie called Belfast, and he wants you to be in it, and he'd love you to read the script and chat to him as soon as you can. And I read the script that day and spoke to Ken the next day, and it was you know just a very quick and easy yes for me. And we were the first production to shoot in the UK during COVID, so it was still unknown times, and this was before a vaccine was talked about. I was very uncertain in terms of how we would do that, what that process would be of shooting like that. But we got through it, and actually ended up being more of a bonding experience than I expected, considering everyone's wearing masks and keeping separated.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's incredibly hard to believe that that was happening at that time. That's really because I've shot a number of things now during COVID, as have you, and it's not an easy thing for anyone. I think particularly for the crews, because the crews are the ones who have to wear masks all the time while they're doing physical labor. And that's
And I was
pretty
wondering,
brutal.
the most efficient set I've ever been on, and so much of it had to be efficient. You're only allowed, each department were on allowed a run at the set sort of separately from each other department. So it's like, okay, you go in, do your thing, right? You're done. Our department go in. So it had to be sort of very regimented in how we did it. But I do have a feeling, I don't know, I hope I get to learn. I hope I get to do another movie with Ken outside of COVID. But I have a feeling that he likes his sets to be like really organized anyway. He's very much about preparation and organization. And, I was constantly asking him questions about how he sets up his day. So it always felt like we were in total control, even though the world was sort of insane around us.
Right. Yeah, he has an ability. I mean, his films are always very well structured, and certainly this one is incredibly well composed. It's absolutely his composition is always good, but this is really extraordinary. And but also he loves actors so much, and he loves acting so much, and he's able to pull together uh, ensembles like nobody else I know. So how? Let me ask you about that. Just that you have all these incredible actors you're working with, Kieran and Judy, and I use their first names because I know them. But uh, I mean, this is an extraordinary group of people. What a wonderful group of people to be with, especially when you're making something during COVID, but also something on such a dark subject. How was it?
It was light, weirdly, felt light. That group of people, from Judy Dench to Kieran Hines to Katrina Balfe to the boys, Jude Hill, who's incredible. They were all, you're very grateful when you turn up to set and all the other actors have a similar vibe. You know, everyone- I'm each to their own, and everyone has their own way of getting to where they need to get, and I'm respectful of everyone's process. But we all had a very similar approach to it, which was basically seemingly try to keep as relaxed as you possibly can, right up you're in it. Um, and everyone's like that. And I think if you're seeing the likes of Judy Dench being like that, you sort of think, oh, it's okay. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's an
yeah.
okay.
It's true. I have found that a lot of times when you're doing a very dark story, those sometimes are the lightest
Totally.
sets of all. And I actually experienced that with Ken when we did something together many years ago. It was a very dark thing, but the mood in the room was
Buoyant.
always sort of very light, because you have to do that to sort of counterbalance the.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I find you need the levity in those moments when you're, between, action and cut. When you're all very down here, you need to for air and make each other laugh. And that was definitely the mood on set. And Ken sets the tone for all of it. And Ken's funny. And he's up for a laugh. He's yes, he's meticulous in his planning, and we get stuff done. And we've all put the work in. Hopefully, before we turn up on set, that when we do turn up on set, we're there to have fun. And I think Ken's exactly the same. And it was fun. It was also, yes, it was during COVID, and there was that added certain difficulties to the whole experience, but it was unseasonably hot weather. It wasn't unseasonably. It was summer. It was meant to be hot, but we're talking about the UK, and it was
Yeah,
summer.
but it's yeah.
You know what it's
Yeah,
like. So long, long sunny days, and
yeah,
everyone together making this thing that we all really cared about, and it was really personal. Obviously, so personal to Ken. It's you know
yeah. It's his
very.
story. But so yeah, so tell me about that. So um, you're obviously Irish, as far as I can tell from that accent. But so tell me what it was like talking to Ken about sort of bringing this story to life that obviously has been sort of gestating for a very long time in him, and but also about your own experience in Northern Ireland growing up.
Yeah, you know what? It's mad because I think so many people, Stan, don't realize that Kenneth Branagh is from Belfast. Like it's very. We do. If you're from Belfast, you know that Ken Branagh is from Belfast because they don't care. He could have left. He left when he was 9. He could have left when he was 9 minutes old, and we'd be claiming him back home.
Yeah.
We'll take it. I mean, we're talking about a place. Most of our tourism is based around the fact that we built the Titanic. Nobody stopped to sort of consider what happened to the Titanic, and maybe it wasn't
So
made.
it's your fault. Yes, right. Yeah.
That's listen. I'm here to take the blame, but yeah, we're all very aware at home that he's from there. I've often felt that he probably had a story to tell from home, because I had a little bit of an awareness of the timings of when he left. I knew he was there till he was 9 or 10, and and I knew it was at the beginning of the conflict. So I always felt that I wonder one day will Kenneth Branagh tell a story about Belfast, And then it's that pure luck thing of right age, right time, right whatever. I was able to be involved in it, but I would say we had. He's still like a Belfast boy at heart. I think no matter how
How
it,
British he is.
Shakespearean, yes, his
Yeah, right. Yeah.
it's still he's still very much rooted at home. But I think there's something, a thread that is within people from that part of the world, that you have that there's a common thread, and there's a resilience, and there's a humor that comes with being from that part of the world that we can meet on, and which is lovely. But also, we did grow up in a different time, and uh, he 9 years old, it was the beginning of conflict. I was born in 1982, 13 years into a 30-year conflict. I came from a very middle class background. He was born into working class area of North Belfast. So there's differences, but I think we are very much bonded on the sort of core aspects that make up people from that part of the world.
Do you remember? Do you remember the conflicts
Yeah, Jesus,
from
yeah.
your?
Like,
You do.
I'm saying that as someone who, I've never hidden the fact that I come from a middle class background. But my dad was a doctor, but he wasn't. He's from working class background. My history in Belfast is working class, but I certainly had very privileged upbringing. But you're still there, and you're talking about a tiny place. There's only 1.5 million people in the whole of Northern Ireland. Went to school in Belfast my whole life. Even if you aren't like on the sort of the hotspot areas of where most of the trouble was, and where the British Army were patrolling streets with guns around working class areas. Even if you're not in the midst of that, you're massively affected by what's going on. It's even stuff now that I tell people that is was so commonplace when I was growing up, like going to meet your mates on a Saturday afternoon, after you played rugby or whatever it was, and you go, I'll meet you in town, and then there'd be a bomb scare, and that was honestly like. And so then the whole of the centre of Belfast would be closed, and that was honestly every couple of weeks. And how normal that was, you'd be like on the landline, obviously before mobile phones, on the landline going, has there been a bomb scare? All right, well listen, sure, I'll see you Monday at school. It's like the idea now having kids, of them having a very trivial, you know, plan, like going to meet their friends, to go shopping or whatever, cancelled because someone has called up and said they're planting a bomb. Like, what? You know what I mean? But that was normal. And checking, I remember at one point my dad, because he was a doctor, and he was treating a patient who was connected, let's say, to one side of a sort of paramilitary organization, and there was difficulties with the pregnancy or something like that. My dad was an obstetrician, and I remember, like, for that whole period, my dad having to check under the car for car bombs, like before we'd go to drive us to school, and that image I remember seeing all the time, seeing people looking under the car in Belfast, like even that, like seeing that and thinking that was normal. Now talking about it is lunacy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. Did Ken's parents go back to Ireland, or did they stayed in it? Because I remember when I met him, he had this beautiful house that he had built, and he was putting in an elevator because he always talked about his parents, and he said, I'm putting in an elevator because my parents are older now, and I want to make sure that they, when they come and visit, they can. I just thought it was the sweetest thing ever. It's not like he was living in a skyscraper. It was just that it was just to get from one floor to the other. But I thought that was just the sweetest thing I'd ever heard.
Yes, room on the 36th floor of his.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, to the best of my knowledge, they moved to like Reading and pretty much stayed there. Not shoot that far away because we couldn't get back to Belfast to shoot most of it because of COVID times, and we weren't take over streets and rehome people while we used their homes as a set because of COVID. People weren't allowed to leave their homes and hotels were closed and everything. So we had to build this set in Berkshire in England to replicate Belfast.
Oh, is that? Oh, I see. So tell me about it, because the way it's shot is so beautiful. It's so beautifully composed, as I said, and the what I love about it, yes, he does. You know, there's coverage, but there's a lot of stuff that's shot really very simply, quote unquote, simply, uh, in oneers, in these gorgeous sort of master shots. Uh, how did you talk to him about? Did he tell you he was going to shoot that way, or and that it was going to be black and white and blah blah blah? And what was it like to work? Because that's I certainly love all that.
I think, that he talked about having a strong aesthetic for it. I don't. There wasn't the decision to keep it in black and white wasn't really final until later. Often when you watch the playback, it was in color, and then they change it to black and white in the monitor, and you go, "Oh God, I like 70% better now
Yeah, yeah, right.
on that
Yeah,
switch." But there's times when a director is saying this plays in one, it's a big scene, maybe it's a 5-page scene, and there's lots of dialogue, there's lots of movement, there's 3 or 4 players involved in it. When this plays in one, I instantly just think, you know what you're doing, you're confident. And then that confidence, unless it's like someone who, by that point, you've seen enough of them to know that they really don't know what they're doing, and they think it's just jazzy and clever to do it and try it in a winner. But with the likes of Sir Kenneth Branagh, so there's a couple of times, you know, it just lends itself so much more, and you're so much more embedded into the content of a scene if it plays in one. The best example I think that we had was when we have the scene at Christmas Day. The boys are at the forefront of the shot. They've fallen asleep, and they've got little Jude has like chocolate on his thing. And Katrina and I have a very big scene that moment saying about we're not in a great place here, and then my character Pa goes to the back door, and I thank her for raising the kids because it was really all about her, and I wasn't there.
yes, beautiful. Yeah.
That is the scene when I read the script that I really choked up at. I remember thinking, I can't wait to play that. And then, so, on that morning, we did it. We did it in one. And Ken said, I'd love to play it in one. But he hadn't said that's all we're doing. Anyway, so we did it. And I was like, God, I felt good about that. I actually felt good. And yeah, will that change when I come in tight? I don't know. Thinking it through. It's like pretty much my biggest moment in the whole thing. And then Ken came up and said, listen, I think it just plays better in a one. If that's okay, we're not going to come in for coverage. And you know what? I think at the time I had a little bit of like a sort of vanity moment of going like, like I wouldn't mind that. Like that's a huge
Don't you
thing.
want to be here? Right.
Um, I don't know if you can tell, Ken, but I'm actually tearing up. Can you tell? Like, I wouldn't. The tear didn't actually drop, but Jesus, my eyes were wet. Get in for that.
Yeah, I was on the cusp. Yeah.
I think I can do that again. Come in. There's only one way to find out. Uh, well, actually, you know what? I love that scene, and I love the way it plays out. And the fact that we are talking about the boys, and we are talking about the difficulty of the time we're in. I go to the door. I thank her for raising the boys because it's really been about her. And the whole time the boys are in shot.
No, it's gorgeous. It's beautifully composed. It's a beautiful moment, and you're all great in the scene, but you're particularly great in it. Because one of the things that I really love about watching you is that you're a really good listener as an actor. A lot of actors don't listen. I've worked with them, and they don't listen. But you're listening, and and you know when to pause, and it makes it. And that scene, I think, says that all very very clearly. About how artful you are at that, and she is extraordinary as well.
Ordinary. And what was lovely about everything I did with Katrina, but that scene particularly, but really every scene, is we were often, not often, we were always on the exact same page about where we wanted to take it, and we were really, really fluid and malleable with each other, and just like it always felt like this flow. It's a struggle, isn't it? We can all attest to working with a scene partner sometimes when they just have a very strong plan of what they want to do and they don't care if you fit it in.
Yes, those are the ones who don't listen.
That's the thing. And they have practice and practice and practice their speech in the mirror load of times and they feel great about it and they turn up and they are sticking to that and they are just doing it no matter what you're coming in with. And it's awful and it's like the opposite of what the process should be, you know. And I, with Katrina, and with everyone, but you know, most of my stuff's Katrina, we were always just like, just connected. I mean, stay connected with each other and responded accordingly. And yeah, Ken's been nice about that, saying that, you know, essentially, we've heard it a million times, but you know, acting is reacting, it is listening, you know, that's so much of it. And actually so much of this story plays on people picking up on information, and particularly through Buddy's eyes and the eyes of a 9-year-old boy. He does so much listening and trying to interpret what's going on and what his parents are about and what does that mean for the future. And so we find a great listener in him, thankfully, too, you know, Ken. And then Ken's been saying,
He's wonderful, that boy. What was it? It's not easy sometimes to act with kids. I have had not always great experiences with kids where you're just like, there's nothing, and they're really not meant to be. You know, you're acting with a kid who really is not meant to be an actor in any way, shape, or form, and then the parents are coming up to you going, do you think he's going to be? And you want to go like, oh my God, please just let him go play baseball or whatever.
Yeah.
But this kid was great, and there was a really, really nice connection between the two of you.
Yeah, again, you know, a bit of luck there with Jude and his temperament and his, you know, and also he's from that part of the world, so there's an instant inbuilt. There's a banter with each other. There's a shorthand with each other that is just honestly within you if you're from that part of the world, and he will. We can be kind of brutal with each other. In Ireland in general, our currency is to like take the mickey out of each other. You know, that's how we communicate. He is brutal with me, Jude. Jesus. Actually, his dad had to come and say to me, we were doing press, like some early on press, and his dad had been chaperoning him. And Jude had given me a pretty hard time, like on camera for like a whole junket day. And then his dad came up and said, listen, Jamie, I told Jude to sort of lay off you a bit. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, Dara, I can handle it. You know, I'm a big boy. I can handle it, don't worry. But he has this inbuilt sort of cheekiness, which is perfect for not only the part, but also I think you need a bit of that to sort of get through this weird, you know, job or whatever. But he was always up for it. You know, he was never tired. He's got a great engine, as we say. You know, he just was always ready, super prepared, always knew his lines. But
they always do. They always know their lines.
They always do.
I hate that about children.
But Ken always had like a football on set, like a soccer ball on set. So we'd often like between takes would just be keeping it really loose and all around, and you know, feel like we are a family, you know. And I've had it the other way. I did a scene once with a boy who was playing my son, and he was only 5 years old. In all fairness, you know, having a 5-year-old myself, I know how that can go. And towards the end of the day, whatever his maximum day was, 8-hour day or whatever, he just lost it, like totally lost it. And I had to do this scene where I was like really close to him, and I was sort of putting him to bed, and I was sort of telling him all this like sort of, you know, fatherly, you know, wisdom. And he'd cracked by this point, he'd gone. So I was just doing it to a teddy bear.
Yeah.
They're just about keeping the teddy bear's ear out of frame. And
right. Oh, it's so hard. Listen, we've all gotten to that point.
Yes.
You know, where you're just like, you want to leave. Yeah. Can I ask you just? I'm curious for a number of reasons, but just like, so you said, so you shot it, you shot in Belfast, but you shot some in Belfast, but some.
So that opening sequence, which is modern day Belfast and all this, that obviously that was shot in Belfast. but every other frame of the movie we shot in England.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a very authentic, brilliant set that we. This wasn't a big budget movie. We didn't have a lot of time or money,
Right.
which is different for Ken. Particularly in the last few years, he's done a lot of
Yeah,
big
he's done a lot of big stuff. Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. And
And
how long was the shoot?
we did. I think it was 25 shooting days. We did 2 weeks, nearly 2 weeks of rehearsal, including like dance rehearsal and singing. And but we did a lovely thing. Ken did a lovely thing of taking all the grown-ups the first day of rehearsal, all the grown-ups. So Kieran, Judy, myself, and Katrina, we all sat around a table with masks on. Judy Dench was wearing a tiger mask that was like roaring. It was terrifying. It was the first time I'd ever met Judy Dench. She walked in with this mask on, which just sums up everything about Judy and her character. Um, but we sat around and we all Ken just posed a load of questions to us about family and about how we would react, and had we been in situations like this before with our family, and how did that make us feel. It's like therapy. And before we know it, we were all just really opening ourselves up to each other. And I think I certainly cried at one point, and it was just broke down barriers, and made us feel so much more at ease with each other. Then when it was very clever.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I know he likes to rehearse. I mean, because obviously he's, of the theater, from the theater, and rehearsal is a really important thing for him. And it's evident in the film. You see it. I also, it's astounding to me that movie was shot in 25 days. I mean, I think that's pretty incredible. Having directed myself, and unfortunately having directed myself, I, I no, I'm a big one for the shorter the shoot, the more efficient you can make something. The less you don't always need the money that you think you need. And I'll tell you that production, when you say it's 25 days, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, could I be wrong? Could it be 30 potentially? But
Yeah,
certainly
but still,
5 days. And maybe that lends itself to some of those decisions being a bit more practical about trying to play stuff in one.
well,
Although
yeah.
experience of trying to do a wonder, I think it'll save time, and it takes the whole day.
Yeah. But if you have an accomplished director, and a director who has a clear aesthetic, in a sense, a clear vision, then, and you have a person also from the theater who understands how to move people, shape space, that can really help facilitate just shooting something in one and making it really work beautifully very quickly. It's really it's a gorgeous piece, and you're as usual, you're wonderful in it, Jamie. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Maybe I'll just talk. There's a minute. I'm looking at the clock now. I'm just going to talk about you, compliment you for the 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Jesus, you're gonna have to go slow.
No, and I thought your accent was perfect.
The relief of that.
Yeah,
The relief
yeah,
of having
yeah. I know it must have been hard, but it was spot on as far as I could tell. Yeah. But no, seriously, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to? I hate when people ask this question. Why am I asking it?
no.
It's terrible. It's a stupid question.
Yeah,
No-
yeah, you know what? Can I talk about this about myself?
yes, please go ahead. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
What films of mine do you like? No, I'm kidding. The but the thing that, no, the thing that I love about the movie is that, first of all, as I said, the actors are wonderful. A sense of ensemble is wonderful, but also it shows us something, because a lot of Americans don't know that story, uh, and I think also the choice to compose it that way, to have it in black and white, um, is really beautiful, because it doesn't overly sentimentalize it. And it puts it also, but it puts it at a little bit of a distance for us in a healthy way, which I think is good.
Also, I think what is so clever and why it's so necessary to tell this story at this time, being someone from Belfast and knowing what that means, and having traveled around the world a lot for the last 20 years, telling people I'm from Belfast and seeing a real variety of reactions when you tell
Yeah,
people.
I bet. Yeah.
There's often the depiction of that part of the world, the depiction of Belfast, the depiction of the north of Ireland in film has been um, one of great violence and very political, sectarian, paramilitary style lens. And that has its place. And what Jim Sheridan did with In the Name of the Father, what Jan Demans did with 71, what Steve McQueen did with Hunger, they all have their place and they're all brilliant movies. But to see it through the eyes of a 9-year-old boy, an innocent boy, and a normal, hardworking family who didn't ask for it, who got caught up in the middle of this thing, that's really important for people from where I'm from to sell that story and to tell that story, because that's the reality for most people. Most people just, they didn't go seeking it out. They weren't politically driven. They weren't choosing sides. They weren't going, well, that, that side or the bad guys that side. That just wasn't the case for so many people in Belfast.
Yeah, and that really is very clear, and you so feel for those people, and then you think, I mean, my God, if we just think about what's happening in the world, what has been happening for way too long, so many people live like this, where they really just want to raise their families, but they're basically living in under this incredible civil strife, civil wars, and it's seemingly endless, and it's devastating.
Yeah, sadly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, thank you for talking to me.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure, and glad we got to spend some time together via Zoom. But it really is great. It's a Jamie again. It's a great performance. It's a beautiful movie, and congratulations.
Thanks, Dan.